Well, I think the court has, in at least the initial phase of this, given us guidance as to what areas the formula needs to be funded in. And it's time for the legislature to simply move forward and for the governor to offer leadership.
Where do you get that funding? Where do you get the funding?
You know, I mean, Scott, I think that's a topic that the legislature is going to have to discuss, and the governor is going to have to give us some direction on. But you know, I think it's helpful for us also to look back, as I mentioned. 2 years ago, myself and Senator Hensley put a plan on the table. That was a time when we could have restored these cuts. We saw this case bubbling up through the system. We wanted to get out in front of it. But the governor decided to go in a very different direction. He made a very fundamental choice at that time. He chose a very reckless tax plan the state couldn't afford over funding our public schools. It's a matter of priorities. You know, there are going to be plans that are offered. This decision only came out a few hours ago. I think for today's purpose, we need to understand, you know, why we're here today. And we are here today because this governor has not made it a priority to fund our public schools. He made the largest cut to public school funding in state history, and that is why we are in this position right now.
But Paul, going back to Scott's question, you want to be governor. What would be your idea for funding the formula? I mean, that sounds like a Brownback answer that, well, it's the legislature's job to appropriate, and they do it. So Scott's question goes to, if you're governor, how would you propose funding it?
Well, if you want to look at the difference between myself and Governor Brownback on this issue, I would point you to what I offered 2 years ago. And that was a plan to incrementally and responsibly restore the cuts that had been made to our public schools. That was completely rejected by the governor. The governor has never made funding public schools a priority.
But, you know, everybody's got to spend some time now really analyzing this and how we move on forward. We have great schools. We're going to work to make them better. And we're going to use this decision, I certainly am in our office, to see what we can do to have a more equitable funding stream moving forward. These things were started in 2010, had that huge downturn. It's prior to my administration. That was the budget that this lawsuit was built around, was 2010, so this is the Parkinson budget. But you know, they had a huge fall off were taking place, and you got inequities coming into the system. Those need to be addressed. Well, mine is, I submitted a formula 2 years ago. I thought for some period of time that it's time to address the school finance formula overall. A lot of times the argument on the other side was, well, we don't need to redo the formula because the court had ruled it's adequate. Well, now that it's equitable. And now they're saying, well, it's not on the way this is being implemented. So I think it does open that discussion back up. And this is a formula that hasn't been overhauled in over 20 years. It's been tinkered with a lot, and that tinkering is probably what's led to its questions of equity.